Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you very much for giving me the honor of spending this time with you. As you know, we are in Fund Drive, but we're not starting there. We have a special guest for you today. As you know, the mainstream media is not really doing its job. The mainstream media is creating narratives that simply do not hold true. Well, one of the reasons we have the KPFTs and the other independent radio stations out there is because what we intend to always do is correct the record. That is why we always need you. Hey, Shannon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Egberto. And I want to remind everybody, it was your birthday yesterday. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you, my dear. One more year. But, we still have a lot of work to do.
Always.
Well, let me tell you, folks, I'm going to get into the program right away because I really want to get this young lady on. She is brilliant, and she's going to tell us a whole lot about what happened out there in Nevada. When I heard about the ruckus in Nevada, I had a bad feeling. I did not initially write about it because I was under the false hope that it would die. After all, it is an isolated incident. There have been over 40 primaries and convention, and while some have been contentious, they were no different in the past. They were all just fine. It was evident that some wanted to pin a negative narrative about the ruckus as a blanket description of the average Bernie Sanders supporters. Angie Morelli appeared on MSNBC. She was interviewed by Rachel Maddow. She gave an intelligent and articulate interview. The snippet that was used to be representative of the interview sadly maligned Sanders supporters. We will discuss what happened in Nevada and how media manipulation can change reality and affect elections. Listeners from Texas and from across the country, corporate media dominates for corporate dollars. Only you can keep truthful independent radio on air. So please consider keeping this show and radio station on air by calling us and donating now. That number is 713-526-5738. But before I get to the program, I want to remind all our listeners that KPFT is a bastion of intelligent voices and programs. As a political activist myself, my favorites are The Monitor with Mark Vivawi on Mondays at...
That is at 8 p.m., right?
7 p.m.
7 to 8. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Think Wing Radio with Mike Honig on Mondays at
10 p.m.
9 p.m.
9 to 10.
I think she's sleepy today. Anyway, Partisan Gridlock with Jeff Berg on Fridays at
3 p.m.
You got that one. Jazz Latino, Afro-Cuban Latin Jazz.
Well, that's right after Mike Honig.
Right after Mike Honig. It's
at
great.
10 p.m.
Yes, ma'am. And I have a special thing to talk about. Asamblea Popular de Houston. Tonight at 7 p.m., you guys must listen to that show on HD3. Today, Wilson Juarez will be speaking about the free trade impact on immigration. Look, check out our full schedule at kpft.org, where you can find programming from music to politics to medicine to the eclectic. KPFT is a listener-supported public community radio station. So please remember, we're part of the Pacific Network. Please remember, go to kpft.org and ensure we remain strong, viable community radio station that provides news, programming, and information not influenced by the corporatocracy. This is KPFT 90.1 FM Texas. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your thoughts. So let us talk and let us begin. But guess what, folks? Last week, you waited till right at the end before you gave that push to give to the station. We're asking you, as Angie speaks, as we speak, all of this stuff is going to be on video and likewise on podcast. So go to those phones and give us a call at 713 526-5738 or Fund Drive. This is the last one for Politics Done Right, and then we are done. But anyhow, you know what time it is.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, folks, the title of the post is Sanders Nevada supporter sets the record straight. And she did. Angie Morelli, Sanders supporter, sets the record straight about Nevada State Democratic Convention. And here it goes. Here goes the vlog. And it's going to be a quicker one than the ones I normally do because I really want to get to Angie. Here it goes. Angie Morelli, Sanders supporter, sets the record straight about the ruckus at the Nevada State Democratic Convention, mischaracterized by the mainstream media. Thankfully, Rachel Maddow gave her a platform to tell the Bernie Sanders supporter side of the story. You would think that is a good thing. I have been to several state conventions. It is always lively and wild. I thought from the very beginning that the Democratic establishment was using the chaos at the Nevada State Democratic Convention as a weapon in its attempt to force Bernie Sanders into attenuating his campaign. Angie Morelli pointed out the real genesis of the problem. Bernie Sanders supporters were not being heard even as they followed the rules. Some Sanders supporters reacted irresponsibly, but so did several Hillary Clinton supporters. The Democratic establishment attempted to force a Sanders capitulation. Bernie Sanders was defiant and did not fall for the bait. Furthermore, he started making his demands during his speech in Oregon, where he won that state's Democratic primary. It is imperative that Sanders stay in the race. He needs to go to the convention with the strength of a large backing. That gives the power and the right to demand changes in the Democratic Party, which make it really representative of whom? We, the people. After watching Angie Morelli's MSNBC interviews, I had two distinct reactions. The first was that finally, there was someone on TV dissecting the false impression of what really occurred. Morelli was there. Morelli had videos. Morelli had the truthful narrative. The second feeling was that I knew MSNBC, who except for a few hosts have become the Bernie Sanders Destruction Network, was going to find the most opportune snippet of Morelli's narrative to deceive the public at large. I heard it as soon as it came out of Angie's mouth. It was at that point I knew the establishment complex was going to work. Morelli said that Bernie Sanders supporters were in confined spaces with little food, but with availability of alcohol. She said it in a context describing it as a minor factor that included disrespect and much more. In fact, her subsequent statements gave the totality of the genesis of the frustration with physical needs just being a non-inhibiting factor. MSNBC used the clip and spread it ad nauseum to promote two distinct narratives. The first is that Bernie Sanders supporters are irresponsible people with little to no self-control. That's what they wanted you to believe, folks. The second was that they were violent. These violent people, what are they trying to do here? They're trying to create that equation. They tried to equate the Bernie Sanders supporters with the Donald Trump supporters. I'll have something to say about that later when I speak to Angie. But here's the thing. Later on, it was the only clip that Tamron Hall played for Nina Turner, a Sanders surrogate, as she attempted to correct the record as well. It was the clip subsequently used by Rachel Maddow and Chris Matthews. Nothing about what Angie spoke about. The petitions, nothing about going up there to try to get support. It was the clip making the rounds throughout cyberspace. Clips where Morelli points out that many Hillary Clinton supporters were on their side was ignored. Clips where she displayed the petitions that went unresolved were ignored. I have a little typo in my blog, but I'll fix that later. There is no liberal or conservative media. None. There is corporate media who set the lanes where a specific outcome is willed. It is for this reason independent media must ascend. It is the reason why you must become the media. Angie Morelli is in the fight and doing her part. We must all do so as well. the question is, will you? Folks, while we talk to Angie and move on, remember to give us a call at 713-526-5738. Shannon is going to tell you a little bit of the goodies that we have later on, but let's get to Angie Morelli. Angie, how are you doing this afternoon?
Great. How are you?
So far, so good. First of all, before we even go into any type of questioning, was I accurate? Was I sufficiently accurate in the description that I provided?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you did. You've done a great job.
Okay.
I'm pretty impressed with everything you've written up and everything on this, and I appreciate that there are journalists out there that are reporting on this correctly.
Well, let me tell you what is very important, and it actually, I don't get excited or anything, but after watching the interview and after watching what occurred on MSNBC, that's why, for all practical purposes, I went all over trying to get in touch with you, because I thought this is how it's done. It is amazing. It's not, people think about right wing, left wing, and all that kind of stuff. We don't even have to go that far to see what is actually done with a narrative to destroy. But anyway, I tell you what, I think our listeners some of them may not be abreast of exactly what occurred in Nevada. So let me first ask you to go ahead and tell us what occurred at that great Democratic convention in, I think it was Las Vegas, Nevada?
Yes, Las Vegas, Nevada.
What happened?
Well, I mean, I've been forced to retell this story multiple times over the last week, and I have not found a succinct and precise way of exactly explaining what happened in any short form whatsoever, but I'll try again right now. So we had a disastrous caucus February 20th, which was put on by our state party. And we all realized at that point that maybe we should have some doubts about how this election is going to end up shaking out for the state of Nevada. Then a couple months later, we went into, on April 2nd, our county convention. And at our county conventions, they were ran by the county parties, but those also do not have many redeeming qualities that should have brought us back into trusting our local parties. Once we saw this and once we saw what happened there, that's when the group of us that have been organizing for Bernie for the better part of the last year around my table here in Nevada, the grassroots organization that is, we decided to get together, and we had a couple different groups going, trying to figure out, A, how to organize this convention for our neighbors, make sure that their needs are met, make sure that they have all the correct information, make sure they all know how to vote on, these rules, and also put forward people that we thought would be good for some of these positions that were up for election locally. And then another group of us went ahead and started on trying to decipher these rules that were coming out for the convention. And once we got a set of the rules, we realized how egregious and draconian they were. And we initially tried to get the state party to reconsider these rules and the executive board to reconsider these rules before we went into the convention. We had thousands of signatures on an online petition for this. We were ignored. And the next thing that happened was they changed the filing date for people who could apply for the executive board, and they cut the amount of time that you could apply in half. We thought that they were not very transparent about how this happened. We actually found a couple Nevada state codes or Nevada state laws that they were in violation of. So we sued the party. Myself and 8 other people sued the Nevada State Democratic Party leading up to the actual convention, trying to get them to simply reverse this change deadline that they put upon us. And we lost in court that Friday morning before the convention, and I think one of the most glorious ways possible. But after that happened, we went into the convention. Of course, considering they only had volunteers showing up 1 hour before the convention started, the convention registration was very late. We had people standing in line for hours. So people were already frustrated by the next morning once we got there. And my team, we had assembled 9 different petitions that we wanted to circulate, get signed, and have motions on. And some of these petitions, they had nothing to do with what would have been the outcome of the convention that day. They primarily dealt with the procedural rules that we thought were going to be a problem at the convention. And looking back on these petitions now, if any one of these things would have been accepted and voted on and approved, we could have had a much more peaceful day on Saturday. But throughout the rest of the day, we had all the requisite signatures we needed. We actually had double. They refused to accept our petitions. They refused to listen to any motions from the floor. We were clearly winning voice votes, and they were ruling against us from the stage. And these are all the things that preceded, the dramatic moment that the mainstream media keeps showing the same 2 seconds of, towards the end of the convention. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Now, what they attempted to do, Angie, is apparently there was somebody who picked up a chair, and they were trying to turn that into a violent event. But before I even ask that question, I want to ask it this way. Did anybody leave that building with blood on their heads, their hands, or anywhere else?
No, and you know what?
Yeah, wait, let me finish. I know what you're going to say, but I want to ask it this way first, and then I'm going to ask you to elaborate. Did anybody there leave with a punch in their face?
No.
Did anybody there leave with a swollen hand, swollen anything?
No.
Okay. How do you define violence?
That's a question that I keep on asking everyone too. I mean, I would define violence as somebody, forcibly putting their hands on somebody else to
that's what I thought.
Cause them harm.
I honestly thought that was the definition of violence. And let me ask you something, and I'm not going to ask you to say this, but I am going to say this. And let me tell you why. As somebody who studied the mechanics of politics for decades, one of the things that I understand is how narratives get created. In other words, all along, everything has been peaceful with Bernie Sanders rallies and all these other issues, but when you're at the end of a convention and you want to create a narrative, you have to look for anything where you can get somehow the semblance of something wrong occurring. And this was the best that they could get. And that's why I think they turned on the motion, both from the establishment corporate media, both from the narrative writers, both from the way, I don't know if you saw the interview between Nina Turner and Tamron Hall. I love Tamron Hall, but I was completely disappointed in the way that she addressed Nina Turner. It's not that you shouldn't be strong in your comments, but it was quite evident that she was working on bad information, and also there wasn't anybody in Nina's voice. Nina was there for 8 hours, and your voice, you were there for 15 hours, weren't there to refute it.
Right.
And that was the major concern that I had. So my question to you then, going back to what occurred in that room. I understand as well that many of the Hillary Clinton supporters actually saw y'all's point of view. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah,
so the Hillary Clinton campaign, so we had released the information about these petitions and explained them in detail to all the people who came to the Bernie Sanders meeting that preceded the convention. And we knew that as soon as we put that information out, it was going to go out to everyone. But what ended up happening was that the Hillary Clinton campaign, I think it was 2 nights before the convention, the Hillary Clinton campaign put out an email to their delegates telling them not to sign any petitions. And that was a very strong stance on coming from a campaign that has previously been complaining about, our Bernie Sanders campaign here, getting mixed up in some of our politics, which I don't think they have, from my point of view. And I think that, they ended up the next day having a young gentleman out front with big signs saying, "Do not sign any petitions." So I sent a couple of my volunteers up to him, and I was like, "Hey, can you list one thing that any of these petitions are about?" And they didn't even know.
Right.
So what happened was that in the middle of this, whatever they saw, that we were really at the front of this room for hours trying to get them to accept our petitions. Finally, we started having Hillary people come up to us and they're like, "Can you tell us what's on these?" And I was like, "Sure." So I sat there and I explained to every single person that came up to me. And once they realized what was on these petitions, they were angry.
Right, they wanted to sign it. Exactly. Let me say something, and that's where we talk about. I hear a lot about the pundits on TV talk about wanting party unity, and what is amazing I find is that you can't ask for party unity when you're not giving people a voice. But Angie, I am very happy that you're here with me. But we're in fundraising time, so I want to ask you to give me about 3-4 minutes so that we can actually go to our encourage some of our listeners right now who are listening to you right now and who are giving you the opportunity to tell your story right now that isn't really available for you to do it this way on the MSNBCs and the ABCs. So give me a second here. Hang tight with me if you can. Let us go ahead and talk to our audience a bit, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. folks, please give us a call now at 713
526-5738.
We are in fund drive mode. And Shannon, what do we have to offer our folks? And is Ernesto out there to help me out? Ernesto, help me out here to get our people to start. You don't get an Angie Morelli on somebody in the movement on regular TV. You don't get to hear the truth about what's really happening on regular news. And the complete unedited. So tell us, Ernesto, help me out here.
Now is your time to make your pledge of support because you tune into Pacifica Radio during this an election year because you value and trust what Pacifica has to offer to you. Chances are you probably consume a lot of news around election time. So many of us do, whether it's reading articles online, whether it's checking out television, podcasts, whatever it may be. You appreciate the fact that Pacifica is here because we are available for you to get a fuller perspective on the issues that matter to you, whether it's what you hear on this program, whether it's Democracy Now!, or any of the important programming that we offer you during this election season. You have a lot of decisions to make before November, or maybe your decisions are pretty clear cut for you. Whatever the case may be, you value Pacifica because of the perspective that we offer to you each and every week here on Politics Done Right. We're asking for you right now to make your pledge of support to ensure that Pacifica can continue to bring you the valuable perspectives we bring to you. Public radio is not about advertising. It's not about commercials. It is about education. It's about your enlightenment. It's about the conversation that is what media should be. So we're asking for you right now to please support it. Please keep it on the air. We have had one inquiry call, folks, but we have not had enough calls to help us reach our $600 goal for this hour. We want to continue this interview that is right now that you've been listening to, but we need to take a moment to step away to remind you why you appreciate Pacifica Radio, for conversations like this, for conversations as you hear on Democracy Now! And so many of our valuable commodities here on the airwaves. And they are commodities. They are these precious resources that you depend on. So we're asking for you, please don't take it for granted. Please call 713-526-5738.
Absolutely, folks. We really thank you, Ernesto. Folks, we need to hear from you again. Remember, Angie Morelli went on to Rachel Maddow's show, a show we all love, to do her part. And what they did with her part was to use her words to misinform. What are we doing here on KPFT? We are correcting the record. We are making sure that you are really informed. Now, the plutocracy counts. The plutocracy counts on you being uninformed. The plutocracy counts on you being ignorant. Absent the radio stations like KPFT and other avenues where you get independent media, that is how they control us. So we must be the solution to our own problems. Please call 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. We're going to go back to Angie, but before, let's go to Shannon so she can tell you a few of our offers.
Well, we are offering the Politics Done Right t-shirt at the $90 level. That, if you break it down, that is only 24 cents per day, $7.50 per month if you want to break it down completely. And through and through, you're supporting your community radio station. That doesn't sell your time to commercial interests. That makes sure that we keep you at heart, that we don't listen to what our sponsors have to say because you are our sponsors. And if you value that, please call 713-526-5738 or pledge online at kpft.org. We're also offering Egberto's book, and that's at the $90 level too. So simple, easy. And but if you want both, that's at the $150 level. And also at the $150 level, we are offering Amy Goodman's new book. And that one is quite fascinating. She came and signed it when she was here in town. So we would love to offer you a copy that she personally autographed while she was here giving her lecture. And that was so much fun. And that's Democracy Now! 20 years covering the movements changing America. And it was such a pleasure to meet her.
Absolutely. Well, folks, 713 713-526. Thank you very much, Shannon. 713-526-5738. Please give us a call. And do remember, you'll be able to hear Angie on the podcast, on the vlogcast, on politicsdoneright.com and on KPFT.org. So her voice will be all over, and we will be ensuring that all support, not only supporters, that people are informed appropriately.
Yeah, and that her version of what happened there, the version that, well, you can't find anywhere else, is actually given airtime.
Absolutely. Now,
to fully examine what went on there. Last Saturday.
Yes, Shannon. So, Angie.
Yeah.
Now let me ask it this way. I mean, and I hope Shannon have a couple of questions, because what I try to tell folks is that it's the young folk now that we have to get engaged. I want to get your temperature or what you feel the temperature. I don't want to say it was. What is the temperature now of all those young supporters? I know you have a lot of oldies out there as well that was supporting Bernie, but the folks that we're most concerned about are the young people, to keep them in the fold as far as participating in voting back in November. How do they feel about what went down right now? What is it doing to their psyche?
Everyone feels. Let me put it to you this way. When I was walking outside of the convention room at the end of the night, after I cleared out the room, I passed over. Somebody had taken tape and they drew a chalk outline on the floor of the convention center and had a tombstone that said, "This is where democracy died." That's how my neighbors feel about what happened here in Nevada on Saturday.
Now, let me. I want to give a little soliloquy here about Hillary Clinton supporters, because I know a whole lot of Hillary Clinton supporters. A whole lot of Hillary Clinton supporters are my friends. A whole lot of Bernie Sanders supporters are my friend. All good people. The establishment politics that I hear Bernie speak about a whole lot is what is likely to create turmoil in the Democratic Party. I looked at the event that I saw there, and I saw the way the establishment came down on what occurred in Nevada, and it scared me. And the reason it scared me is that it actually showed the similarity between how party establishments, Republican and Democrat, are more similar than they are apart. I hate to say that, because we all know the difference in social policies, etc. But it just shows that the commandeering, the lack of democracy that we have within both parties, how dangerous it is, and not only how dangerous it is, but how it kills the spirit of young people. So, to you, do you feel? Are you guys going to go to Philadelphia with that fighting spirit to demand the respect that you've earned?
Absolutely. I think that everyone needs to be just waking up right now and doing that on the local level as well. Here in Nevada, we've got local primaries coming up in a month, and you better believe that, their turnout just doubles because of what we just saw. We are tired of these people who have been in power this entire time and not doing anything for us. We're tired of them being in those powerful positions, and we really want them all out. We want to put in our neighbors that are going to be in the party and that are going to be working for, the good of everyone in the Valley, not just the people who they are going to get social and professional currency from. And I think that that's a fight that is going to happen in Philadelphia, but I don't think that it's ending there. I think that we've got to start today. We need to start looking at our local politicians who are going to be running for office in our local areas, even in our parties. We need to be looking at everyone from the bottom up and deciding that, look, we are not okay with the way that things have been ran up to this point. Y'all had your shot. You failed. And, the line has been drawn, and either you're on our side or you're not. And if you're not on our side, you better
step out of the way.
Get out of the way.
Now, let me say something. I am happy, believe it or not, as someone that's older than both you and Shannon and all you guys, I am glad when I hear young people speak like that. In other words, because like I said, my fear was that folks are just going to drop out of the political process, which is not what I want to see. I want to see the young folks remain engaged in the political processes and take over the political process. And what I mean by that is, what's important for you is it not true that over that. While what I tell people a lot of times is, while my generation got good education, my generation got a whole lot of good stuff done under the GI bills and otherwise, what did we leave for your generation? What did we leave for your generation, Shannon?
That's a hard question. I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess.
And that's what I'm saying. So what I do with these programs, look, I love the folks my age, okay? I love them. But the truth of the matter is, we have to get with the program, and we have to stop saying to these young people what we cannot do, and start telling these people what we will do. Not what we can do, but what we will do, because the system as it is today was created by whom? By us.
Yes.
By us. And therefore, the fault, for all those who said, well, I didn't vote for Reagan. Well, I didn't vote for Bush. Well, you know what? Many of you simply didn't vote. And that's what I tell you. That's what I tell you now, Angie, and your all the folks that are your followers, all the folks that you're the leader of. You are going to have to ensure that they behave accordingly to ensure that they're part of the body politic. Angie, give me a second here because we have to get these phones ringing. Folks, the telephone number, 713-526-5738. Let's run to Ernesto and see if Ernesto can tell me something or encourage our folks to get those phones ringing, because, folks, how else can we move our body politic forward unless you're well informed?
What's going on, Ernesto?
We are awaiting our very first call for the program. Really interesting interview so far, absolutely. But we want you to please take that moment and appreciate the value of public radio. And also remember, you tune in to Pacifica Radio for unique content, for invigorating conversations. And now we really do need you to please pick up that phone, make your pledge of support. We do need you on this, our very last day, to raise the needed funds during Politics Done Right. This is our final edition of Politics Done Right for the membership campaign. And if you can help out, we would genuinely appreciate that. 713-526-5738.
Folks, the number is 713-526-5738.
We have to end strong. You know you enjoy the conversations we have each week. We're consistently informative, and we just bring you a different perspective than you can find anywhere else. Egberto goes through such great lengths he works so hard on his blogs every week, and it's amazing what he's able to capture and to boil down so that we can understand what's going on out there. And that's important. We need this resource. If we didn't have Pacifica, I don't think Houston would be quite the same place. It's something really special here in the heart of Montrose that's been here since 1970 because people believe in it, and people have put so many hours into this place, not only producing their shows, keeping this place running, and, well, donating, because they know this is an important resource to have here in Houston, just an independent voice, a progressive voice that we would be starved here in Texas if we did not have. So if you believe in what we do here at Pacifica, at KPFT, please call 713-526-5738.
Absolutely, folks. 713-526. I don't hear those phones ringing. I need to hear those.
7.
Oh, I didn't say the whole number.
38.
Again, 713-526-5738. Folks, we need those phones ringing.
We're 100% listener sponsored through and through. We do not have grants. We are not part of a university. We are just independent. And that's why one of the reasons we come to you so often, because radio, this is not free. It costs money. It costs about $150 per hour to keep this place running. And we want to make sure we keep bringing it to you with quality equipment, and just trying to we bootstrap it. We make sure that it's as bare bones as possible.
Thank you for that call.
We value your money. We value your donations, and I just hope that you will stand with us and just don't take it for granted. It's too easy to take something that you perceive as free because it comes to you wherever you are, in your car, at your house, and just brings you the information that helps you understand the world just a little bit better.
Absolutely, folks. We really need to hear from you. 713-526-5738. Please don't wait for that other person to call. As we explain or we talk here with Angie, we have to be the solution. Angie decided to be a part of the solution. You listen to the way Angie speaks. Speaks, a young woman in Nevada. That's the inspiration that we need to get into our voters to actually make a change in the body politic today. But the only way Angie is going to get coverage is under two circumstances. The first circumstance occurred on MSNBC, where Angie was placed on TV, where her words could be used to could be twisted to ensure that some sort of a perception was made of a candidate. That's not what we do here. We are not trying to malign Hillary Clinton. We're not trying to malign Bernie Sanders. We're simply trying to tell the truth.
Yes, and it's amazing. When I was reading through the news coverage of this event, it was so garbled, it was so biased that I didn't, it's hard to know what really went on there until I heard Angie speak.
Hey, it's interesting because, and Angie, I'm coming back to you, but I just want to tell our audience this. Look, the show today was going to be about some healthcare issues that I ran into that I know hundreds of thousands, if not millions, run into here every week. When I saw Angie's story, I said, or not Angie's story, but the Bernie Sanders occurrence at the Democratic Convention, I said that story needed to be covered.
Yeah, and it happens way too often in modern media.
Right, and we could do it because we owe nothing to the corporatocracy. We owe nothing to the plutocracy. We decide, you decide
what we
covered. I know that this was something that our folks wanted to hear. I know it was something our folk needed to hear, and I know it was something that the body politic needed. Why? Because the reason we continue to vote against our own interest is because we're uninformed. It's because the words of good activists like Angie gets maligned, gets misquoted, gets misconstrued. Did you want to add something to that, Shannon?
Well, it's just amazing the kind of rhetoric I read and within the New York Times article, AP even, in the Washington Post. It was just so slanted. You can tell that it just was heaped against.
Yeah, go ahead, Angie. Come on in.
I will point out that there's a picture of me in an especially passionate moment that was used to make me the poster child of Bernie Sanders' violence. And this picture was on the front page of FoxNews.com, Yahoo.com, BBC.com, The Washington Post, and is now the cover article for the New York Times. And it's crazy because of the fact that I'm also fighting some of my activists here in town because they're upset about the fact that I really tried to pressure them not to do crazy protests.
Right.
I was the person at the end of the day that was saying, let's not protest here. Let's go back and do this the right way. I was the person that was breaking up all of the different, hot moments during the convention itself. And I was kind of the main perpetrator of making this as peaceful as it could possibly be. But, instead of actually looking at the facts, they'd rather do things such as, put my picture all over the place as like the first child of Bernie Sanders violence when there was actually no violence, and that was so completely the worst person they could have used for that picture.
Angie, and that's the reason why, you remember when I asked you, wait, hold on a second, I wanted to say, was there any blood? Was there any swollen faces?
Yeah.
Was there any broken? And the reason I wanted to say that is first, let's get the reality out first. There was no violence. There was shouting. There was no violence. Secondly, what you said there is very important, that you were trying to actually maintain the peace. And why that is important. Notice what Angie said. She is a cover story on the Washington. Which one is it? Washington.
All of them.
On all of them. Her face.
It was
cover.
everyone for the last couple of days.
And think about this. That is a picture you have of this person. That is a picture the establishment wants you to believe. When a lot of my friends that are right wing or left wing or whatever ask me many times, how can you work with that right winger? How can you work with that left winger? How can you work with that person? What I tell them all the time is this. I always look at the genesis of the problem. The genesis of the problem aren't my fellow Americans. The genesis of the problem are those in the corporatocracy, those in the plutocracy who are manipulating their minds. Because what happened out there with your pictures being all over the place was mind control or the plutocracy attempting mind control by promoting a narrative that didn't match reality. Ernesto, do you have anything for me yet?
I do. I
Wonderful.
want to send a big thank you out to Doug out in Houston, also Anonymous out in Denton, also Salvador
Thank you.
out in Spring, also Alan out in Houston, and also Evan, who is out here at the table helping us out.
Thank you. Folks, we love you, but we need more. I hate to sound selfish, but...
But thank you all so much for standing up and calling in and pledging your support, because we cannot do it without you.
Absolutely not. And we can't do it without any of us. We can't do it without Shannon. We can't do it without Ernesto.
We're all
we can't do it with
passion-driven.
Stu. I mean, we work. We can't do it without... Even my Trump fan out there, we can't deal without.
We work well with others.
We work well with everybody.
But, we're asking you to pay it forward to help keep KPFT alive. About 6% of our listeners stand up each and every fund drive, almost every fund drive, and pledge their support to keep this station a coming to you.
Absolutely, folks. 713-5. Oh, did I cut you off?
Oh, no, you're good. 713-526-5738. Come on.
Well, you see,
we don't need to cut each other off. We can say it together.
I know. 713-526-5738. Maybe Angie can join in. Ready, Angie? 713-526-5738. But
and KPFT is really .org is super easy to pledge under.
Absolutely, but we want to hear your voice. So
We
call
do.
in. We want to hear those phones ringing. I want to have Ernesto holding that phone and saying, Egberto, stop. We can't have any more people call. Of course, I'll say have them call in, because the chairs that you have me sitting down here, look, it's bad enough that we are working for free, but Ernesto, these chairs, let me tell you, Angie, if you ever see some of the chairs that we are broadcasting from, you'll see the video when it comes out. I mean,
A lot of
what
times
can I
they're
say?
donated. We
Yes.
deal with what we have,
I-
so that's because we value just having this resource.
Absolutely. But it's very important, folks. Please give us a call, 713-526-5738. We definitely need to hear from you. Angie's voice could not have been heard in completely absent a KPFT or absent any type of public radio that is willing to say, young lady, your voice must be heard. Because one of the other things, Angie, that I said is that young people many times are taken for granted in the body politic. And I think a lot of the disrespect that Bernie gets is, yes, he gets the disrespect because he's Bernie, but also because his followers are young. And what these folks don't realize is what you bring. And one of the great things I thought when I saw the interview altogether was like, great, she did not allow them to play her, which is very important. Thoughts?
Yeah. They obviously were trying to bait me on quite a few things in all of the interviews that I've done, and what's important is just trying to stick to the facts. Like, that's the problem with the whole last election is we have been given very little actual facts on platforms or experience or, future decision making. We've been giving these anecdotal, ridiculous little stories that really have nothing to do with anything. Like us having conversations about, Bernie Sanders supporters being mean to somebody, or, us having conversations about whether or not Ted Cruz's daughter gave him a hug by the bus sometime. Like,
ridiculous.
No one cares about that stuff. Like, we need to have actual conversations about, our Democratic parties literally taking away our microphone at a Democratic convention. We need to have conversations about how I've gotten a phone call from Fox News before I got a phone call from my local party or my national party to ask me what happened on Saturday. I think that these are the kinds of conversations that we need to be having, and then also looking at, what plan we have for the future. And that's what we have to be focused on right now.
Now, Angie, it's interesting that you said that, because you opened the door for this next statement that I'm making. I wrote a blog about this. There was this guy that was walking around. There was a time, I don't remember what city it was. Both Trump and Sanders, they were in the same city together. They were given competing rallies or something like that. And this guy said he was going to both rallies because he had the decision to make whether he was going to be a Trump voter or a Bernie Sanders voter. And he said he went to the Trump rally and he said, "Oh, those people are crazy. They don't know what they're saying, and they're living in a different land." And what he meant by that is they were not being driven by real information, real reality. Then he said, "My God, but the Bernie supporters, they are so smart. I mean, they really understand the policies. They really understand the concept. So I think the person asked, so who are you voting for? He said, by that answer, you can guess who I'm voting for. But what I'm trying to get at is many of the people out there, including Hillary supporters, good people, they're made to believe. They're made to believe that you guys don't believe in policy, that you guys just want something for free because Bernie is offering you free college. Bernie is offering you free health care. And the big lie is that none of those items are free because it's all going to be paid forward. If you get an education, you are going to grow up to be a tax-paying person with a good salary. If you have health care, you are going to be by not having health care right now, it is costing us more. I mean, so there's it's not about some, and that is a hypocrisy. That is a hypocrisy of the narrative.
And not only that, but I mean, like, let's look at it from this perspective. I am already going to college on my GI Bill, which also, that's a big misconception. That is not free. You pay money into that while you're in the military.
Right.
So I'm going to college on my GI Bill. Thank you, Bernie Sanders, for the post 9/11, so I have an extra 5 years to do it. But I also, like, already have health care through the VA. It's not the reason why I'm fighting for any of this. I can also tell you that out of the 50 organizers that have been gathering around my table, most of those people are either retired or small business owners.
There you go.
I've got doctors, I've got lawyers, these are not people looking for handouts. These are people looking for a political revolution.
And that is what we're talking about when we talk about the narrative, Angie. That is what we have to get around. And that is why you must appear on programs like Politics Done Right and all these other programs outside of the mainstream media, because your words will be used to create a narrative for the many, as opposed to you directing your narrative the way you can direct your narrative here, the way you can direct your narrative on different platforms where you have more control in talking about reality-based information, reality-based policy. Shannon, it looks like you're itching to say something.
Oh, I'm just, I'm so happy this kind of resource exists because honestly, they were going to skew what the supporters there in Nevada were trying to fight for, what they were, so upset about there. That message was garbled because they boiled it down to saying that, these were this violent action, and to the letter that was written to the National Convention saying that, that this is going to be dangerous in the next step.
Let me tell you something, and I'm talking to both of you, to the whole audience. It was. I don't.
It was meant to dismiss.
Yes, but when I saw Wasserman Schultz come out and attack Bernie being the neutral person she should have been, that said it all. When I saw the snippet used on all the networks, you realize the fix is in. Not the fix was in. You realize the fix is in. Don't you concur, Angie?
Yes.
The fix is in. Ernesto, anything to tell us here?
We'd like to step away from the discussion to ask you to make your pledge of support to Pacifica Radio. You and I can have a longer discussion about this offline because I do think this is a far more complicated issue, but I think that's part of the conversation, and I think that's part of the value of Pacifica Radio and part of the value of public radio, getting into a conversation that is interesting but prompts you to think about a lot of other matters and issues that end up emerging from that. We have a very difficult and challenging election and race coming up to November. Donald Trump is the presumptive Republican nominee. One can presume what the Democratic nominee will be, but nevertheless, there are a lot of issues, regardless of where you stand on this, that are going to determine the direction of the country for years to come. And we're asking for you to please remember this resource is yours and it is available to you for you to understand the issues before us, whether it's the upcoming Supreme Court nominations and the ongoing battle over the Supreme Court nomination with the death of Antonin Scalia, whether it is reproductive justice, whether it is transgender rights. You hear about so many important issues that are a part of Pacifica Radio, and we're asking for you to make your pledge of support for KPFT. 713-526-5738 is the number to call right now. 713-526-KPFT. There are, I presume, a lot of folks who are really appreciating this conversation and are sitting rapt at attention because our phone lines are empty. We're about $200 away from our goal, and we need to get several of you on the line right now calling 713-526-5738, 713-526-KPFT. That is the number to call right now. We do need to hear from you, or at kpft.org if you'd like to make that pledge securely online.
Folks, please call 713-526-5738. And Ernesto said $200 that to the goal. I'm going to say $500 from the goal, because I tell you something, we have been behind this session in a lot of our fundraising, and we know we can do it. I think we've presented a show here. We presented by having Angie here and by who we brought before and who we're going to bring, that I think you see the urgency the rationale why we must hear from you. 713-526-5738. Look, and I use this phrase all the time. They have Coke. Coke has unlimited pockets to provide them. On bare bones budgets, we are going to continue doing what we do. We will continue doing what we do. We will
bring you the truth in an objective way.
Absolutely. So we're asking you to call now, 713-526-5738. I know you want to hear Angie. I'm going to bring Angie in a little bit to close out. But before we bring back in Angie, we have to now take the 7 minutes that we have now to ask you to call right now. You're not going to miss anything. Please call right now, 713-526-5738. This station really needs you. This station, and Ernesto said $200. I'm saying $500 more, folks. That's 5 callers at $100, and you don't pay that $100 up front. You just pay it. What is that?
We can break it apart.
Yeah.
We can get it to you for, well, that's $8
$8 a month.
2
coffees a month.
And, actually, yesterday I got a mug myself. That's at the $50 pledge level.
There you go.
They're beautiful cobalt blue and Pacifica Radio with our special dove on there.
Right.
And it's something to be proud of.
Folks, I only have 6 minutes left. Please call now, 713-526-5738. I know we can do it. I know there are 5 people that are willing to give us $8 a month. 5 people willing to give us $8 a month. 713-526-5738. I'd love to have 20 people giving us $8 a month. 713-526-5738. Please give us a call right now. You know what you're getting here. You know what you're going to get. This is going to be a horrific, I don't even know the right word to use, election season, and we're going to bring you both sides, and we're not going, look, we are going to be bringing you that which will make us a better people. I guarantee that we will continue to, right?
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, we're going to continue to do that. So I'm asking you, 713-526-5738. Please do not wait for that next person. That next person is you, really. It has to be you. We are here. Angie is here. Please be here as well. 713-526-5738. Did you want to add something real quickly?
We count on you to support the radio that you value. And, you can count on us to continue to bring you the information that fills in those gaps, that, gives you the straight story that you deserve to know so that you can make sense of the news out there.
Absolutely. 713-526-5738. Come on, folks. Let me hear that phone ring. 713-526-5738. You're looking at the cameras. Are those phones still empty?
They look rather empty,
folks,
out there.
We need that call. We only have 5 minutes left. 713-526-5738. Where are your calls? We need those calls. 713 526-5738. I'm going to close out with Angie now, and then we're going to do a next couple minutes of pitching where I hope you run to the phone. Angie,
Yes,
it
sir.
has
Yes.
been my pleasure to have you on the show. I think I will have to have you again sometimes. This time where we don't have any pitching, but we have to do this. Rest assured, absent this, you're not here.
Well, I can tell you this. I am an elected delegate for Philadelphia. As long as my name does not get stricken from this list from Roberta Ling, who apparently has ultimate authority, that is probably not very happy with me right now. But I would love to talk to you from Philadelphia and give you some updates once I get there.
Absolutely. Look, thank you very much, Angie, and it was a pleasure having you on. And you keep up that good work. Keep up the fight, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Folks, that was Angie Morelli. And that was it was wonderful speaking to her. But we need you now. We have 5 minutes. 713-526-5738. Please give us a call now. 713-526-5738. Ernesto.
713-526-5738 is that number to call right now. We do need to hear from you. Our phone lines are wide open, and that means right now is your time to call.
Thank you for that
and
call.
And make a pledge of support, because do appreciate the calls, do appreciate the encouragement when you call 713-526-5738. But the reality is that KPFT needs your contribution. We need every single donation right now between now and the end of the hour in order to reach our goal. We have about $200 more to raise between now and the end of the hour, and that means you need to go to the phone to make your contribution. Your call right now is going to mean the difference as to whether Politics Done Right made the right choice to spend a lot of time having a long-form conversation that you're not going to get on mainstream media. You're going to get the soundbite. You're going to get the most argumentative moment. You're going to get something that is salacious, because that's how much of commercial media works. And we're asking for you, please remember the value of public radio is you get a chance to hear a longer, more contextual conversation that isn't about trying to create the most drama and the most tension, but is really about giving you an opportunity to hear the full story and to make your own decision. Please make your call right now. 713-526-5738. That's 713-526-KPFT. We've got 2 calls on the line. It's a wonderful thing, but we do need you to be that person that steps up and makes your pledge of support right now. 713-526-5738. 713-526-KPFT. Houston, make your pledge as well online anytime, day or night, at kpft.org. We'd love to get your pledge there, but we do want to hear from you right now.
Yes.
713-526-5738.
Absolutely, folks. And listen to what Ernesto just said. We, as opposed to pitching this entire show, our expectation or hope was to give you the show at the same time that we ask you to call in and give you windows to come in. Please show us that this model works. 713-526-5738. A lot of times, a lot of you complain and you write me, hey, I want to listen to your show, but I don't, I'm tired of hearing the pitching. This is what keeps us alive. But you have to show us that doing it this way works, folks. Show us that we can give you a show and pitch at the same time, and that you will call and make a difference. That you are going to appreciate that we are listening to what you're asking us to do as we go ahead. We need you to call now. 713-526-5738. We gave you that program. Now we need to ask you to let's make sure and show that the model works. We can give you a program, and at the same time, we can actually get your donation. 713-526-5738. Ernesto, do we have about 30 seconds to thank people right now? Or
we have pledges processing on the line right now, so waiting for folks to thank. Hopefully we can thank you a little bit later on, please, or on next program when we're back to regular programming. So please make that call. 713-526-5738. It's so great to hear from so many of you, but we want to get more of you calling in right now. 713-526-KPFT.
Folks, call in the next 2 minutes. We need to make our quota, folks. 713-526-5738. We need you. 713-526-5738. We had a great program with Angie Morelli. We need to have you now come and say, Egberto, those are the types of programs we want. Of course, we would have wanted to have a bit more in depth, but it is what it is. We have to get the donations in for the stations. We have to keep the station alive. 713-526-5738. You know, I'm going to forego the thing right now just because I'm going to go to the end. No music at the end today, folks, because I need you to call. 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Make it, show us that having a program and pitching works together as opposed to just giving it to you. 713-526-5738. I've got 30 seconds and I can still take your call. And the last call, I tell you what, I'll take myself in the room. 713-526. This is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And I am out.
Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.